My name is Thresia Gloria Ngera and I'm from class B.
My name is Nurlaila Safitri and I am from class B.
And I'm Muliyani Sultan. First of all, I would like to tell you about the synopsis of this short story. So this story tells about the narrator who has a mental health issue. He being disturbed by the vulture-like eye of the old man. Finally, he decides to kill the old man. In the night, the narrator goes to the old man's house and disturbs the old man's sleep for 7 days. And one night, the old man realized that there is something strange in his room. Finding the old man in distress and terror, the narrator suddenly strikes him until the old man succumbs to death. And after killing him, the narrator cuts the old man's body and hides it under the floor and then clean it and make sure no sign of murder is there. Soon the police appear after being reported by the neighbor. Initially, the narrator acted as if nothing happened and lied to the police that the old man was not at home. But when he talks with the police, he begins to hearing weird things which makes him feels uncomfortable and irritating. And as the noises keeps growing in his ears, and he might think that the sound coming from the old man's heart. He then confesses his crime and tell the police where the old man is. And that's all for the synopsis, and let's move to the plot. The introduction part of the story is when the narrator confesses about his sensitivity in hearing and he feels disturbed by the vulture eye of the old man. The rising action of the story is when the narrator decides to kill the old man and he can get rid of the eye forever. And then the climax part is when the narrator kills the old man with his own bat and then cuts up the body and hides it under the floor. And then the following action of the story is the policeman comes to the old man's house, and then the narrator tries to hide the truth from the policeman. And the last part is the ending. So the ending part of the story is because the narrator has the hypersensitivity, so he begins to hear the terrible noises which get louder and louder. And because he cannot stand for it, then he tells the cops that the body part of the old man is under the floor. And then the conflict of the Telltale heart is an internal conflict, which is the person versus self, because the narrator is battling against the vulture eye of the old man, and it is obvious the eye is an evil, and the narrator has it all in his head. And let's move to the next part, which is the setting of the short story. The first is the place. This story takes place in a house of the old man, specifically in the old man's bedroom. And then the time setting of the story is night, which is the time that the narrator used to spy and kill the old man. And the last is the environment. The story creates a sense of mystery, which is typical of horror story. And by this setting, it affects the mood of the reader, and it creates a sense of being there. And the last point for me is the characterization. There are 4 characters in this story, which are the narrator, the old man, the policeman, and the neighbor. But the main character is only the narrator and the old man. The narrator describes as a person with an insanity, which is tells by himself in the first paragraph. And the second is the old man. He is described by the narrator as a lovely man who is never insult the narrator.
And the next is point of view. This story is told by the first person point of view. For the most part of the story, he tries to prove that he doesn't suffer from some of mental problems. And next, imagery. This story frequently uses auditory imagery. As the speaker gets mad, he becomes more obsessed with the sound of his neighbor's beating heart. The repetition of the sound of the heart is what actually drives the speaker mad and causes him to turn himself into the police. 7. Symbolisms. In this story, Poe uses different physical objects to stand for something else. For example, the narrative mentions the watch of the narrator wears, which symbolizes the passage of time and the movement of life. The focused neighbor has left to live, while later there is a strong connection between the ticketing of the watch and the beating of the heart. 8 is figurative language. In Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart, figurative language is used in various ways. Hyperbole is used to emphasize the stress and paranoia that the narrator is under and explains the action that he takes against the old man. In the beginning of the tale, the main character speaks about his state of mind and how it has changed all of his senses. He begins to foreshadow something bad that he has done by saying, "Listen, I will tell you how it happened." Foreshadowing is giving notice or warning of what is to come. Here, the narrator is saying something has taken place he feels needs to be explained by describing the loss of his sanity.
Next, 9. Tone. The narrator's tone in The Telltale Heart can be described as agitated, defensive, and manic. Throughout the story, the unreliable narrator comes across as neurotic and mentally unstable when he speaks in staccato sentences, uses numerous exclamation points, and continually defends his sanity. The narrator's anxious, irritable tone undermines his argument that he is a sane, rational person. 10. Irony. Poe uses verbal irony. For example, he says, "I love the old man. I think it was his eye. I made up my mind to take the old man's life and to rid myself of the eye forever." This is a verbal irony because he is saying that he loves him but he is going to kill him. Poe also uses dramatic irony, such as the narrator was nice to the old man a week before he killed the old man. This is dramatic irony because you wouldn't expect the narrator being nice to the old man before he killed him. The last is situational irony, such as his room was a black as pitch with the thick darkness, and so I knew that he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. This is situational irony because the narrator tells the readers that the old man keeps his windows closed tightly because the old man is afraid of robbers. It's irony because the only robbers near his house is the narrator that lives with him. Next, 11th theme. The Telltale Heart explores several themes. First, the connection between love and hate. Second, the intersection of sanity and insanity. Third, the burden of guilt. In the Telltale Heart, Poe examines the relationship between love and hate. The narrator loves the old man while hating the man blue eye. The old man's eye, the narrator says, was like the eye of a vulture, the eye of one of those terrible birds that watch and wait while an animal dies and then fall upon the dead body and pull it to pieces to eat it. And the last is reason. The reason we choose that short story entitled The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe has a forward plot. Based on a series of stories that are clearly arranged from beginning to end, and there are no flashbacks, which ensures that this short story has a forward flow. Also, at the end of this story, we can see that this short story uses a plus plot. In the short story, The Telltale Heart has several conflicts between man against himself and man against man, but in this story there is no man against man conflict, and also this short story doesn't have much setting available in the story.